So don't beat yourself up when you're picking up a new thing. Your subconscious knows what it is for. It's just you have to work out how they all fit together and make sense.
What's going on? You're listening to episode 57 of the Perspective Podcast, and I'm your host, Scotty.D.Russell of Perspective Collective. This show is about carving out time to build something for yourself and about being open to seeing things from a different perspective. I want to share what is and isn't working for me, along with sharing my guest point of view. And starting off, I want to give just a public thank you to everyone who bought something from my online shop over the last week. Every purchase is literally going right back into the podcast so I can update equipment and evolve the show to where I know it can be. And I have some pretty lofty goals going into 2018 of where I want to take this show. In the shop still, there are some custom screen printed pizza boxes with a set of 3 prints inside of them. Like, that was pretty limited. We only had 35 of them for $40, and that's a collaboration with Industry Print Shop. Check out last week's episode to learn more about them. Also in the shop, I still have some Pizza Party sticker packs, premium sticker packs, the pizza enamel pen still on sale, and I have a plethora of original one-off drawings for sale. And you can find all of this at perspective-collective.com/shop if you're interested. And I'll get everything mailed out ASAP if you place an order to try and get it to you before Christmas and any other holiday events that you participate in. Bye. Used to do interviews once a month. That was a goal of mine starting this last February 2017, was to do one interview per month and get out of my comfort zone. And that's blossomed. I've reached my goal, but now it's blossomed into doing more. As you can see, I've done 3 in a row now. And I'm realizing how valuable it is to share insight from people who are making a massive dent in the creative industry and who have been doing things longer than I have and, have done things that I could only strive to achieve. And I'm learning a ton from them as well. So that's why you've heard all these interviews. And going into 2018, you're going to hear more. And there's still going to be solo episodes sprinkled in there. Like next week, you're going to hear one that I hope fires you up to finish out the year strong. And then the first week of January, you're going to hear another solo show that's meant to light a fire under your ass to start your year off with a bang. I'm saying this just so you know what to expect as I attack 2018 with the wave of creatives that you look up to or that I think you should know. Today on the show, I have an absolute total badass. And Dominique Fala is the wizard behind Typism, which is a global lettering community that has blossomed into a massive Instagram account, a conference, a book, an online summit, which you'll hear more about all of this in the show. Dominique is also a passion weaver, a speaker, author, typographer, and has completed tactile string typography commissions for brands like Google, Bing, Penguin, Random House, and Woolworths, just to name a few. I have no doubt you're going to be blown away by what she shares in this episode, as she makes you realize and appreciate where you've started, where you are now, and where you're going on your creative path. You can follow the show notes filled with tons of her work at perspective-collective.com/57. And if this show made an impact on you, which I know it's gonna, like seriously, she kills it. It'd be great if you can give it a little share on social media, as word of mouth is how the show continues to grow. And finally, you can connect with me and follow each week's episode artwork at Perspective Podcast on Instagram. Let's get into the show. Good morning or good evening, wherever you are, as we are live with the one and only Dominique Fala of Typism. Dominique, thank you so much for making time to jump on an episode, as we've been trying to make this happen for a while. And how are you, and what time is it again, wherever you are? Byron Bay, New South Wales, Australia?
In Byron Bay, it is 10 p.m., but just to confuse everybody, the place where I work is in Queensland, which is another state, and they have a different time zone to us right now. So it's 9 p.m. in Queensland and 10 p.m. in New South Wales. That is the correct face to pull. It confuses everybody.
So when you go to work, you get an hour back?
You bet. I leave for work at 8 and I get to work at 8, but then I leave for home at 6 and I get home at 8. So it takes me 2 hours to get home and a minute to get to work. It's so confusing.
That's pretty crazy. It's like you're living in the Matrix or something.
I keep my car on Queensland time. So even though my car is now in New South Wales right now, I keep it on Queensland time so that when I get in the car, I'm right where I should be.
Huh. Well, true story. This is why I love you, is that you came to Creative South this last year, and that seems to be where I meet a lot of the people that I have on the show. But what I love the most was that you're just as extroverted as I am, as you literally came to the conference with a list of names. It seemed like a never-ending list of names of people that you were determined to meet. And that was my first impression, and I thought that was so cool that you were so devoted to meeting these people.
Well, I've been sitting at home watching Creative South happen on my Instagram feed for a couple of years now, and so I kind of got a picture of who was going to be there. And so when I got invited to speak at Creative South, I figured I'd meet a whole bunch of my Instagram crew, my Typism book crew. I knew there would be a lot of people that I knew from the book would be there, as well as the people I follow and stalk on Instagram. So yeah, it was great.
I love the verbiage stalk. That's even better. Okay, well, speaking of typism and everything, give us a brief Wikipedia page summary about yourself so the people who maybe don't know can learn a little bit more about you.
Sure. 2009, I started doing my PhD, and roundabout route, I ended up studying typography and lettering. And I basically, I guess, invented a kind of style of type and lettering called tactile typography. It's certainly, when I Googled tactile typography in 2009, it didn't exist. And now if you Google it, everyone's using that term. So that was really exciting for me to ride that crest of that wave. And so I developed, a whole folio of work that was made out of different tactile materials. And from that, I got to be, fairly well known on the internet for doing that kind of art. And then, 2013, I went to a conference, and Seb Lester was at the conference. So I don't know if you know him, but he's a fantastic British calligrapher.
If you're in the
designer,
lettering world, everybody knows him.
Yeah, if you don't know who, well, his videos went viral after that, didn't they? But he spoke at this conference in Brisbane, which is the largest kind of major city near me. And for the rest of the day, I was like, I'm kind of bored. I don't want to see any of these other speakers. I came here for Seb Lester. And I looked at all my friends and we were like, we're all here for Seb, right? We don't care about this other lawyer guy or whatever. So I said, you know what? I'm going to make a day where it's 7 Seb Lesters. And that was the birth of Typism. So I just rang up all my, the coolest friends that I could feel brave enough to ask. So Gemma O'Brien and Wayne Thompson and Matt Vagodis and Aurelie Maron and all these people that I knew or kind of half knew. And I said, hey, do you want to come and speak to my students and we'll have a fun day and I'll pay for your flights? And they said, sure. And so Typism, the conference, was born. So the first one we had in 2013, second one in 2015, third one we just wrapped up in September. And I'm planning to have them every year now. So around August, September every year, we'll have, 8 of my coolest friends come and stand on a stage and talk about what they do. But from that came the book as well. So one of my students actually, I think, said, hey, we should have a book. And so with Typism 1, we also had a book where, I emailed, again, same thing. I just ask a bunch of really cool people and they all show up and send me some work. And so the first book was a lot of people that I reached out to directly, but the second, third, and now the fourth, which is literally flowing into my inbox as we speak, is hundreds, if not thousands. I'm probably clocking close to about 3,000 entries for Typism Book 4, and they're still coming in because the deadline is midnight tonight.
Yeah, about that deadline.
Yeah, about that deadline, Scotty.
It's been a crazy last couple weeks for me. But how do you filter down? How do you filter down and get to the cream of the crop? Is it you, or do you have a team of judges in a sense?
Yeah, thankfully I have a team because it's heartbreaking for me because I know and love a bunch of these people, and just there's going to be some people I know that are going to be so devastated not to get in the book, but the quality is just incredible this year. So what I'm going to do is shortlist down to about 500 which from 3,000 is,
that's a lot of work.
That's still a task. But then I have an online committee that I basically upload those images, probably those 500 images. I strip everything off it so you don't know who it is, or male, female, nothing about the person who did the artwork. And then they just choose, basically they've got 100 votes to give. And they just go through and vote for them all. So we end up with about 190 selected works for the book. And so there's got to be some criteria, I don't know, if they start to see the same phrases over and over again, like, hustle hard or whatever it is, if they start to see 20 of those, they're not going to, you're not going to have 20 hustle hard.
Scratch
book,
that
okay?
one off my list. No.
Yeah. So maybe, and also, last book for Typism 3, it was just like, no more calligraphy circles. Like we've seen those, there was so many got entered. So that kind of makes it easier that if you start to see the same thing 20 times, then you're just like, well, I'm just going to pick one of these and ditch the other 19.
So it's good to submit something different that catches the eye.
I absolutely think that quality plus standing apart, doing something that, you wouldn't necessarily, if you look at a piece of work and you say, well, this could be artist A, B, or C, then there's probably something wrong there in that the style has become really popular. I mean, Jasmine Dowling, unfortunately for her, she is an Australian artist who spoke at Typism 3, and her ink lettering style is now just ripped off left, right, and centre. You cannot identify a genuine Jasmine Dowling anymore. And it's not her fault. She was doing her thing, and her thing was like fairly...
It's the world of Instagram and Pinterest just saturating shit. Right. Yep.
And she has hundreds of thousands of followers, so like 20,000 followers of those are going to be dipping that brush in that ink and trying to rip off a Jasmine Dowling. And look, that's flattering and that's how you learn, but that's probably not what you should be sending to be published in a book. You know what I'm saying?
I agree 100%. Something else that I think is pretty badass about you is that the saying goes, it's better to be a master of one over a jack of all trades, but you completely shit on this theory. And I've seen that you called yourself, or maybe someone else has called you, a passion weaver. So how have you been able to combine all these multiple passions in your life into one thriving creative career? Because I'm a master of none. I am a jack of all trades. I like to do it all.
Yeah. I think the artwork I'm most famous for is winding a bunch of string around a bunch of nails. That seems to be what a lot of people have really gravitated towards out of my work.
And just so people know, this will all be in the show notes as well. So if people want to visually see all your work and link you all up, it'll be in the show notes. So if you could provide me all these amazing images you want people to see, please. Sorry to interject,
sure.
But people need to know.
Just literally Google Dominique Fala and string, and you will get all the pictures you need.
All right. Easy. Never mind.
I went on Pinterest a while back, and yeah, they're everywhere. So I use that as a metaphor for, if you just have a bunch of string, it's just a mess. And if you take it off its basic spool, it gets all tangled up. So people panic about that and they leave it on the spool. And so this is why, having a structure that you can then wind that string around is the only way to stop that string turning to chaos. And so I really use that as a metaphor for your life, that if you have a kind of underlying structure, then all those bits of crazy that would get tangled up if you just started pulling at them, if you actually have a bit of a plan as to how they all should weave together, then that underlying structure kind of holds them apart. And that's where the term passion weaving came from. And so I tried to talk about that in my Creative South talk, in that idea that, there's never, like, not all of us wake up as 6-year-old children and say, I'm going to play the violin for the rest of my life. Like, there's 20 people on the planet that knew that when they were 6, and they're still doing that thing when they're 36. The rest of us have to try a bunch of stuff. And, you might pick up the next thread and not want to let go of the old thread. And so this is where we get known as a jack of all trades, because, we're still doing this drawing, and we're still doing this illustrating, and we're still doing this writing, and we're still doing this podcasting, and we're still building websites, and we're still making conferences. And in the end, you've got to kind of try and look back over the course of your life to where you're at this point and just say, why did I pick up all those threads, and what is the underlying structure that kind of gets me out of bed in the morning and is, I don't know, for whatever the want of a better word, but your mission, your vision, your driving force, your why, whatever the popular term is to describe it. It's got to be, your higher calling, whatever it is. It's looking for that thing, and that structure then makes sense of all of the bits of thread that you've been picking up for some reason. Your subconscious knows what it's doing. So don't beat yourself up when you're picking up a new thing. It's your subconscious knows what it is for. It's just you have to work out how they all fit together and make sense.
Do you feel like as you pick up new threads, there's always been some kind of underlining thread that has been the constant?
Yeah, I think there's a guiding force, and sometimes it's hindsight that you know what that guiding force is. But at the moment, if you're just curious about something, you wake up every day and go, I'm not going to say no to something. And then if you actually examine why you've been attracted towards that thing, instead of just disregarding it because it doesn't fit with your current life puzzle, you've got to always think of, why was I attracted to that? Why was I drawn to that particular thing? And eventually, in hindsight, you can look back and you can see a sort of a guiding path or a larger reason for all of these things that you've been doing in your life. And whether that's, whether it's always about helping people. That's always what it is about, using your skills or whatever it is to help people. But it's about working out who those people are. And usually those people are you 5 or 10 years ago.
Wow.
So,
damn, that's incredibly true. Wow.
That's always what it is you're trying to make a life that makes sense to the version of you that was confused. And so this confusion where we're seeking, we're always trying to solve things, or who am I, or what am I doing, or what's my style, or what's my purpose, or whatever it is, that confusion that you have as you get on later in life, you're serving that person and other people like it.
Man, I think that articulates a lot of, I feel, where I'm at in trying to search for the right words to describe what it is I'm doing or what I am trying to accomplish. So maybe I'm a passion weaver too, just with...
I'd say you're definitely a passion weaver, Scotty. Guaranteed.
Different channels and different mediums, but the constant's always been encouragement and art and finding new ways to get it out there. So shit, that really hits home. I was doing a little research on Typism, and I want to talk a little bit more about this, but your hashtag has been used over 213,000 times. Did you know that? Yeah. What I'm going to ask, do you know? To me, I thought that was cool. I like digging in and researching some things, but to me, that's pretty badass. I could only imagine how that feels.
It's yeah, I mean, we had a celebration when I think we hit 100, and it was either 100,000 or 150,000. I can't remember. But last year we had like a letter where you live competition, which kind of celebrated the fact that everyone was using the hashtag and the fact that everyone came from around the world. And what I really loved was with the letter where you live, people were writing down the names of their towns, their cities, their countries. And that just was a really cool way to share, on Instagram, that all these people are using the hashtag and all these people come from everywhere in the world, and that we are literally united by letters. That's the only thing we really share in common. We don't know anything else about each other, but we are united by our shared love of letter forms, and I just thought that was really cool. So I think maybe for when we hit the 250,000, we need to do something pretty special.
Yeah, get turned up and get crunk. I'll let her from Iowa too. No, I think it's really cool. You have a pretty amazing integrated community from all over the place. And from the outside looking in, it looks like Typism is exploding. And tell us more about things like the book. The book is out. Since this podcast is going out, we're talking in the future now. The book will be closed off. You're working on Conference 2018. Tell us a little bit more about that and maybe some of the behind the scenes of what it takes to prepare a conference like this, because it's a one-day event, right?
Well, it's 2 days of workshops and then 1 day of speeches.
Okay,
it's kind of so we had some people last year come from overseas. I think someone came from Portugal, someone came from California. So, they're going to be there for 5 days. So we try and give them activities to do over the 3 days. But the majority of people just come to the one-day conference, and it's, it's a lot of fun and it's really inspiring. And we actually moved venue this year, and it just, I don't know, it took it from, a 7 to an 11. Like, it really made all the difference. They just organised so much, and there was food and there was a vendor hall, and there was just so many kind of additive things to just round out the day and make it a really cool experience. I think, my Creative South experience really helped me see what was possible for typism as well. So the idea of having a vendor village hadn't really occurred to me until I went to Creative South. The idea that it needs to be every year so that people can, they're coming off a high, they just want to experience that over and over again. And so if you can say, lock in your diary, the date next year, that really makes a difference. So I've learned that, and just having it every year so that if people can't make it next year, they know there's going to be the year after. So I really came back from Creative South with the attitude of, go hard or go home. Like, do this properly and give it everything, or else just, stop pissing about with it. So I really decided to go hard. And so having it every year, I've already got all my speakers lined up. Not going to tell you who they are, but pretty cool. I'm pretty excited already.
Well, and it's so, not in September. This last time it was September 17th. So next year is in August?
Yeah, it's going to be in August. Lots of reasons for that. But yeah, just the way the planets are aligning for everything into 2018, it has to be August the 4th. And I think probably keeping it around there will be the best moving forward. So it'll be, just after the middle of the year. The good thing about August is that Queensland is really still nice weather, whereas the rest of Australia is either really hot or really cold. So they all want to come to the Gold Coast for a weekend getaway in August. That's a good time to come.
Yeah, I don't blame them. Like, here it's usually 90s, 100s Fahrenheit and scorching hot.
Yeah, good time to come and have beautiful beach weather and really nice kind of T-shirt and shorts kind of temperature. So I think it's a good time of year.
You've mentioned Typism Summit before, kind of back and forth with us, and I haven't had a chance to dig much into it, but what is that, and how is that compared to the conference? Sure.
So the summit was born of an idea because obviously, the book, we can kind of send out the book, and the conference is something that is mainly open to Australians just because of location. So it's great that we've had people making the journey down here, but it's not for everybody. So I thought with the summit, it was really a way to kind of take those people that I know and love and know that they have a lot to share with the wider community and somehow, package up what it is that they do and make that available to the wider audience. So this year, I packed up my car and we drove around Australia, and I went and dropped in with 10 of my friends who just happened to be, some of Australia's best lettering artists. And my husband and I, we just kind of took some camera equipment and we just kind of got them to give us a bit of a sneak peek as to their workflow and how they get things done. And so it's not like a Skillshare. So a Skillshare is just really, here's a project, copy my steps, you'll end up with the same project. Mm-hmm. It's really not that. It's more about, this is my workflow, these are my techniques, this is how I refine something, this is the mindset when I go into drawing something. So with Matt Vagotis, who is a good friend of all of the Creative South crew. Frothin', he's a frothin' surf
Love
nerd.
Matt. I'll link him up in the show notes for people. He's amazing.
He is amazing, but he also is this, really stellar lettering artist, but, his secret is really, really simple. He just writes the name shitloads, like just over and over again. When the rest of us have got bored and wandered off and have started watching Netflix, this dude is still writing the same word over and over again to the point where he gets muscle memory and learns so that when he can pick up a pen, so he does it in pencil first and then he picks up a brush pen, and it doesn't matter whether it's a Fudakoki this or a Pentel sign touch that. It doesn't matter because he's programmed his hand to write that name, and whether he does it slow or fast or on an angle or, he kind of he rehearses the move, and then when he picks up the pen, it looks like he's some amazing miracle worker because he does this, magical brush thing. And so everyone watches the YouTube videos and just stabs themselves in the face because they think there's no way I can do this. And what they don't see is, you know, literally the 700 times he's already written that word on 50 sheets of paper. So, you know, my husband and I stood there with cameras and caught him doing this stuff. So it's really, you know, these amazing artists opening up and letting you see their secrets and their workflow, with the idea that you then take that skill set away and apply that to your own work. It's not like here's a perfect ready-made project for you to copy. It's here's my techniques, you try it at home, show us what you do. So the summit will be going live on December 11, which is very soon. Yeah. So all those videos, I actually have a sort of a small group of, you know, kind of trusted founder members that are already going through the course. So they're kind of beta testing it right now. And yeah, the feedback's been really good so far. They're all kind of working their way through. They've all said that it takes a lot longer than you think. So, you know, it's not the kind of thing you can bash out in a weekend. It's almost like a meditation where you just kind of practice. You might even do just probably one artist per week. And so that would take you like 10, 12 weeks to get through the whole summit. So it's just an online series of videos that'll be available, you know, for people to access anywhere in the world. Some of the equipment is slightly specialized. So we have Brett Peaver, Carla Hackett, and Barbara Enright, who are all sign painters. And so they have the quill, you know, the brush with the long hair. So obviously, you know, in order to do proper sign painting, you might need to get a proper quill. But and Maria Montez does Neuland script with bamboo. But, you know, any of those, what are they, the Pentel, you know, the thing with the green cap and it's got that flat wedged metal tip.
Parallel pens?
Yes, parallel pens would work just as fine. So if you haven't got like bamboo growing in your backyard like I do.
Like I don't.
Like you don't.
I got corn stalks.
Actually, maybe give that a go. Yeah. You never know.
Oh my God, I'll be like Ian Barnard and just like blowing up with random calligraphy tools. Corn stalk, okay. I'll have to wait till summer.
Nothing wrong with that. Libby Reed brings celery to work and we play with that.
Yes.
But yes, so Maria Montez does the bamboo flat pen thing, but you know, any flat nib will do. So there's not that much specialty tools. It's mainly, you know, just if you've got a brush pen, a pencil. Wayne Thompson does a great thing with just baking paper. So he says, you know, tracing paper is too expensive, and so, or drafting film, he gets really restricted, whereas what he wants to do is trace over and over again. Mm-hmm. So he actually goes and gets, you know, a $2 roll. Do you call it baking paper? Like, greaseproof paper. Yeah. Like for baking.
Baking paper. Baking paper is fine. That's what I would have thought of immediately. Yeah, I don't bake, so I mean, to me, it's it's kitchen paper. So I don't bake. Kitchen paper, exactly. So whatever it is, it's like $2 for a whole roll.
And so you see Wayne just like fanging through it. He's just like ripping, drawing over the top, rips the next sheet, draws over the top. And so, you know, he'll spend $2 total and he'll have traced and redrawn his sketch until it's perfect, and he's not freaking out about how much tracing paper he's just used. So it's really about, you know, those magical little, like that was an eye-opener for me.
That's the biggest tip that's the biggest value I've gotten from this episode so far.
Absolutely. My $30 tracing paper is staying in the drawer. I've got the kitchen paper and I'm going crazy. So, you know, this series of videos was just so much fun for me to just drive around the country, you know, basically making my Christmas vacation tax deductible.
Yeah, for sure.
And, you know, dropping in on all my friends and seeing their studios. So Maria has this beautiful studio called Rotson Studios in Fitzroy. Eliza Sfakoulis has this cool shed. You know, we went and hung out in Barbara Enright's back shed in her garden, and then she brought us gin and tonics afterwards. It was just like the most fun you can have. And so I've spent the year editing all these videos. There's 80 in total.
And you do the editing?
I'm really good now. You know how when you start something and you're not so great?
And you suck ass at it, yeah?
Well, I mean, my dad worked, my work experience when I was 15 was with my dad at a recording studio. So I edited like a fake In Excess video when I was 15. So I've kind of had some experience at it. And I know about, you know, multi-camera shots, and I know about having something to cut away to and all that kind of stuff I knew in theory. But there's nothing better than doing, editing 85-minute videos to really sharpen up your skills.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd have the patience for that, but yet I could stipple for 5 hours straight,
Well, I wind 700 yards of string around nails, so patience is something I have.
Yeah, exactly. Up the typism talk, where do you see typism and your creative career with it evolving in the next 5-10 years? Because you seem to always have something up your sleeve with this.
Yeah, the next stage is probably developing the membership. So like I said, I've got a small group that have kind of been, I guess they're like the beta membership, for want of better words. I call them the founder members. And some of those are really cool people who are like in the Summit videos. So Nikita Prokhorov from Brooklyn, Wayne Thompson, Maria Montez, those guys all stepped up and said, let's join up and let's try this thing out. And then there's a bunch of people from overseas. And so those guys have kind of been waiting a long time because, developing content takes a long time to get it right. And so now that the Summit is kind of poised to go live and they've got all the Typism conference videos now, I really want to spend the next year just building out that memberships to a point where I don't feel bad about asking people for money to join up to it. So I want to make sure that there's a lot of value in there. And I also really want to, because like my superpower is not, like I'm not the world's greatest letterer. I'm okay, but my superpower is knowing what's good and knowing how to communicate that to other people. Because you've got like these experts like Sergey Shapiro or Seb Lester or whatever, and they're just like head down, 10 hours a day, getting the skills, becoming the best in the world at doing that. But they're not necessarily the best at showing other people how to get there. Or, there's a whole other set of skills that, it might be that they have a partner who's doing their invoicing, or there's all this sort of stuff around being a successful lettering artist that I really want to help communicate that to the general public because, I think that is my superpower. Bring another set of skills. A few of my friends are great lettering artists, but they're sitting in their workshop just doing the stuff. So I really want to help get them exposure, but also structure the material in a way that is not overwhelming or just makes you, feel like you suck, but that shows a pathway that you can actually see yourself improving and getting to a point where you can, either do this for a living or just generally make a living from your creativity. I mean, it started with lettering, but I don't see why the stuff that we're doing with typism couldn't then apply to illustrators or whatever. It's anyone making a creative living, and it's kind of just building out the sort of business as well as the skills as well as the mindset. They're the three areas I really want to work on over the next couple of years, is stringing those together, because everyone gets focused on the skills and then they don't take it any further. And so you've really got to look at your mindset, and then you've got to look at the business skills around being a lettering artist. So I really want to kind of sew all those things together for people.
I think that's huge for creative living, as it breaks that starving artist mentality, because so many artists, they have a hard time of taking off the creative cap and, flipping the business switch. They don't even know where to start. And, having resources out there like Typism community, that's going to be massive.
Yeah, and that's what I hope. I really want to help people, break free eventually of their day job, because I know there's a lot of people sort of being held captive to a day job, and there's nothing wrong with day jobs. You have one, I have one, we all have one. But I think even just having that side hustle, it really just stops you feeling depressed, because, it might not be it's a lot of pressure to put on yourself that your side hustle becomes your main hustle. That's a big pressure to put on yourself. But having a side hustle really makes a difference. It's that extra cash you need to go on holiday. Or it's that extra creative, kind of spark that means that you're not coming home and just going, give me some whiskey, I want to watch Netflix and forget my day. It's more about, I can't wait to get home because then I get to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, it gives you something to look forward to each day is the biggest reason I'm a big supporter and advocate of helping people find side projects or start a side business.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Agree 100% on that.
And I think a lot of people try and they kind of beat themselves up if the side project doesn't, like if their day job doesn't fulfill all their creative needs, or the side project doesn't in 6 months make, $100,000 a year. Either one of those things is crazy.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I'm 3.5, almost 4 years into Perspective Collective, and I'm just now figuring out how to like monetize it. So I mean, it started off just enjoying first what I did each day.
And that's how you're going to discover what you're good at. I mean, you've got to walk the walk before you can start asking people to pay you for it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You've got to work out what it is and what's working and what's not working before you then monetize it.
Something I saw in your bio, it might have been Instagram and maybe your Medium blog post. I did some stalking on my own, but what I saw that really stood out to me is creativity is a muscle, exercise it every day. And this, I love it because I'm a hybrid jock / creative. And is this related to your book that you have coming out this next year?
Absolutely. Yep. So rewind to 2009 when I first started my PhD study. I didn't immediately hit off with typography. I first started off with this idea about creativity because I was seeing, and it's all, it all makes sense now. Everything I'm doing with typism, everything I did with creativity fitness, it's actually all the same stuff. It's about unlocking people's whatever it is, whatever their creative passion is. It's unlocking that for them and giving them the skills to kind of turn that into whatever they need it to be. But creativity fitness came about because I saw a lot of, how do you put it? Flabby brains. So I'm a university lecturer, right? That's my day job. So every year at the end of the year, we go on this thing called a retreat, which is where we're supposed to wrap up the year and come up with strategies for the next year, the next 12 months coming up. And so these people are all used to be creative practitioners. So they're all like vaguely famous photographers or, digital artists or illustrators, graphic designers, whatever, who've decided to become design academics. And at the end of the year, watching them in a brainstorming session, trying to come up with ideas for the next year's curriculum and all of the strategy. And it was the saddest thing you've ever seen. It was a bunch of grown people in so much pain because the only way I could describe them is that they were swimming coaches who hadn't got in the pool for several years. And you're like saying, get in there and swim. It's like they know the skills and they know how to teach other people the skills, but they hadn't been in the pool for a while, right? And so getting them to do this brainstorming session was just painful. And myself included, and I'm like, this can't be right. We've got to find a way to do our day job and also maintain a level of fitness so that when we are drawn upon to be creative, we're not going to be this mess. Mm-hmm. And so I started to, and the other thing that happened was I'd see my students, they would build up towards the end of semester when the work was due, and they would get quicker and faster and the ideas would flow and they would just get in their groove and they would get in their zone. And it's like, I guess for a sports person, it would be, they build match fitness. There's preseason training, but by the end of the season, you're flying, you're making decisions quickly. And then, of course, the grand final or the playoffs or whatever happens, and then they give in their folio and then they go on their vacation and they crash. They lie on the couch, they go to the beach, they do nothing. They don't open their computer, they don't open their sketchbook.
Off season.
And then the off season where they get to peak athlete and they crash. And so they would come back just blubby messes in January. And I'm like, where was that firing, smart, creative person that I saw in November? And they're like, oh, I left them on the beach. I've got to get back to that. So I got to see this crash and burn kind of idea that my students were giving it all and then giving nothing. And then I saw my colleagues, myself included, floundering around like fat, out of condition ex-sports stars. And so I said, this has got to be a solution to this. So this is where creativity fitness came out of. But it was initially a PhD project, but a very wise supervisor stopped me halfway through and he said, this is a really good commercial project, but it's not, unless you're prepared to do an undergrad in psychology and an undergrad in teaching, you can't continue with this as a PhD project because you haven't got, you're trying to move too far away from your wheelhouse. And so I put that project in a box and then I got into tactile typography, thankfully, because, I got to do projects for Google. So I have to thank that guy for putting that project on hold. I started up another project And then, I opened the box on creativity fitness and it was all still there and it all still made sense, and all the reading and all the stuff I'd done made a lot of sense. And I've since given a couple of talks to different groups of people, because it's all very well to talk to a creative person. They get it, right? Mm-hmm. But I went to Pause Fest in Melbourne in February and I spoke to a bunch of like techie nerd, angel investor, startup kind of guys. And like they all got it as well. They got really excited about the concepts that I was telling them. And, so it kind of just validated the idea for me. So the book is, I don't know, 80% written. But what it's occurred to me now is that the point of the book is to then teach people how to do stuff. And so that means there needs to be a course. And so I'm going to take a leaf out of all of the online marketers' kind of playbooks and give the book away for free, essentially. And the idea is you give the book away for free with the idea of upselling people then to the 12-week course or whatever. So I need to do the 12-week course now. So that's my sort of Christmas holiday project, is to flesh it all out as an online course with videos. Now that I'm a really good editor.
Let's say you get more video editing. That's like your Christmas gift.
My Christmas gift to myself. You get to cut more film. But yeah, I really want to structure it as a course and then make sure that the book holds together with that course instead of, because there's so much material. I did reading for like 5 years. And I just want to shove it all in that book. And I'm just like, no, man, you're going to kill people with this. So I've got to pull it back, make it an easy point of entry, make the content easy to grasp and understand. And then when they want to go further with it, there's, an online course that they can kind of sign up for.
So should people expect like an ebook or an audio book if it's given away?
I need to investigate more, but I've actually heard that there's some service where it's like free plus shipping, and then you charge people like $7 for the shipping, and then that actually sends a thing to a print-on-demand book where they print one copy of the book and post it to the people.
Perfect. I'll take care of that. I'm an audio guy, so whenever you do the audio book, I'll probably jump on that too.
But all of those things, it's a case of, trialing it with a bunch of people and then saying, look, how do you want to consume this stuff? Because in the end, it's about getting them on board with the idea. And if that's that they need to hear it, see it, read it, whatever it is, you've got to kind of listen to that and deliver it in that way. So that's all yet to come, but I really want to knuckle down and build the course first and then finish the book.
All right. Well, when it gets close to launch date, let me know and I'll give a nice little plug here in the newsletter for you.
Sure thing. That'll be great.
Question I'm going to tailor just a little bit just because I think this is what you're an expert at and you could give some solid feedback. So what's one piece of advice you could give to a creative who maybe they like to do a lot of things and they don't know where to, dip their toes in or start in the beginning, picking a path to go down for that initial thread, that initial string? What do you say to someone to just get them motivated to just start in one direction instead of being paralyzed by choice?
I'd say what sounds like the most fun, because your fun meter is telling you a lot of stuff. And so, there's always that thing of what would you do if you won $1 million, right? And everyone would be like, I'd go on holiday, or I'd just eat pizza for 58 hours or whatever it is. They do a stupid thing first, right? Once you've got the stupid thing out of the way, once you've got all the cocaine and hookers and whatever, like once you've gone crazy, when you wake up one day and you're bored, and it's like the Dan Bilzerian question. It's like, how does that guy keep himself entertained?
I know.
Really? It's like, what would you actually do? And what he loves to do is make more money. So he goes to Vegas and goes gambling, right? Mm-hmm. So once you strip away all the stupid stuff of just procrastinating, wasting time, goofing off with your buddies, if you literally were like, didn't have to do anything and you would just want to pass the time, how would you have fun? What would the thing be? And for a lot of people, unfortunately these days it's just distraction, so playing games or whatever. But still, if you'd like to be in a digital world playing games, then think about the reason why. If you want to be just surfing all day, think about the reason why. Because all of these things that we would rather be doing, they unlock secrets. And I think it was Jessica Hish who said it, that procrasti working is the work you should be doing. Mm-hmm. It's the stuff when you are kind of goofing off or avoiding a deadline or whatever it is, where you would rather be spending your time, that's actually where you need to start looking. And the other thing I would recommend you do is check out the 18-minute Simon Sinek talk. start with why, because, you know, he just draws a frickin' circle.
The golden circle.
Knows the golden circle. He says everyone knows what they do, and a lot of people know how they do it, but nobody knows why they do it. And if you can work out why anything, that's the answer. And then if you just use that why to drive everything you do, fun plus why, it's the answer to everything.
That book, that book, Start With Why, absolutely changed my life 2 years ago, and now he's got Find Your Why that just came out too. So not only read those 2 books, but check out it was a TED Talk, right?
Yeah, it's a TED Talk, but it's it's short and sweet, and it's easy to digest, and then you can get into the book and get into the in-depth stuff. I'd start with that.
Rapid fire questions. I know you got to get to bed here soon, and I got to get to the day job. So if you were on death row, what would your last slice of pizza be? You eat pizza, right?
I love a bit of pizza, Scotty.
Right.
You know that.
That's why we're besties.
We've definitely bonded over pizza. It would be vegetarian plus pepperoni.
All right. That's like breaking the rules, isn't it?
Yeah, I always get a strange look from the pizza place when you say vegetarian plus pepperoni. Because it's all the vegetables. I love all the vegetables, and if you just get a meat pizza, it's just too much meat. So I really like pepperoni and all the vegetables.
Yeah, I was to say know the rules so you can break them.
That's it.
All right, here's a different one. What program would you live in each day if you had a choice? And I guess this doesn't have to be digital. This could be analog if you wanted to go to the tactile route, or maybe your video. I don't know now.
Yeah, I don't know. I probably would have been iMovie, but because believe it or not, that's where I edit. I tried After Effects and all the Premiere, and screw it, just iMovie is great. But no, Photoshop. I live and breathe Photoshop. I've been using Photoshop since version 2. I am a Photoshop wizard. I'm a Photoshop junkie. Photoshop is open 24/7, and I love to play around in it.
It's good to know. I did not know that. Script, serif, or sans serif?
I am a sans serif junkie, I have to say. I get really excited about a new clean sans serif that looks like 2% slightly different to the sans serif that I'm currently using, and then I'll just adopt that, and nobody notices the difference, and I don't care because I do.
Where do you go and find all your favorite fonts and typefaces? Where's your go-to source?
I'm in recovery now. I used to have a serious font addiction, and I don't let myself go there anymore, Scotty. I am denying myself. I don't even begin the online font search. I just stick with what I've got.
All right. What's your favorite typeface then?
At the moment, I'm probably in love with Avenir at the moment.
Yes, thank you. That's me and Amir from Forefathers' favorite font or typeface. So I'm an Avenir guy.
There you go. Avenir Light is currently rocking my world. But I went a whole year using nothing but Helvetica. So I had this argument with people on Facebook, and they're like being Helvetica snobs. And I think it was because the movie Helvetica had just come out, and what's-his-face, Eric, was whinging about, how it's everywhere and ubiquitous and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, screw that. It's not the font, it's how you use it. Exactly. And so they were all like, okay, prove it. And so that's why you'll notice the string piece that I did, we're all part of the same thing, is in Helvetica, because that was during the year where I could only use Helvetica. And I got to say, it's like the Steve Jobs equivalent of getting up every morning and just wearing the turtleneck and the jeans. He has his one outfit and that's what he wears every day to save decision making. I loved having a font for a year. My life was so easy.
Well, constraints breed creativity.
That's right. You're forced to do something with it instead of, I just used to spend a good hour. It used to really freak me out that every logo or branding project I would get, I would just go down the rabbit hole of trying every damn typeface I had on my computer, and I never will get those hours back.
Yeah. Well, in wrapping things up, where can people go to find you online?
Well, obviously, if you're not following Typism on Instagram, what is wrong with you?
I know.
That's where it's all at. But, I do my string stuff and my tactile topography over at Dominique_Fala on Instagram. And also I'm going to start kind of pushing out the creativity fitness stuff. When there's things to be sharing with people, that's sort of going to transition to that side of things. My folio is all online, dominiquefala.com. As you said, I used to write a lot on Medium, and I probably should get back to that. But it's, there's only so many hours in the day.
It's not like you're not busy with other things. Yeah,
no, I've got like a full-time job, 40, 50 hours a week as well. Crazy, but it's fun. I don't have kids, so that's what it's all about.
Yeah, me either. I don't have kids right now, and that allows me to push the gas pedal down all the way. So
I have a lot of respect for people who manage to, have a day job, be creative, and still give quality family time. And we got to give a shout out to our man Tin Lun. I mean, he's doing that. He clearly is devoted to his kids. Same with Matt. They love their kids, and yet they're still able to be creative. So I have a lot of admiration for that. That's got to be some crazy time management. Whereas I just I work all hours, and I really shouldn't.
At least I have like good resources like those guys to get some tips for or whatever. I have more than just 2 cats, so.
Yeah. One day you'll work it out.
All right. Well, thank you so much for our time, or for your time today. It's been a blast just chatting and getting you on the show. Finally, it's about damn time we made this work. For real, thank you so much. I know you're gonna blow the audience mind when this one comes out, and get some sleep and have an awesome trip to work tomorrow early. Oh God, I want to say have a good day, but no, that doesn't work.
Nah, it's all good. So I love what I do.
All right. Well, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Scotty.
All right. Bye. If you're like me, this episode brought not only clarity, but appreciation during those times where I felt compelled to try something new, but also felt discouraged, like, this is the wrong path, and it goes off the beaten path of what I thought I wanted to create. And looking back on everything now, I'm starting to be able to connect the dots and see that underlying structure to all the new threads I've weaved over the years. And for me, I'm seeing that underlying why, or the vision, the mission of what I do, is to connect and encourage other creatives who feel lost and unsure if they have what it takes. And it makes sense because I'm creating content that's geared towards who I was 5 to 10 years ago. I'm out here trying to encourage that version of Scotty who was a wandering soul with 0 directions and 0 confidence in myself and my abilities. And maybe you can relate to that version of Scotty, and I hope my waves of encouragement find you when you need it the most. You have so much fucking potential in you, and you have to keep chipping away at that inner creative gold you store inside. And you have to keep weaving those threads of interest together and keep showing up even when it's not convenient. Every one of us is a passion weaver, and you got to accept that no one's going to solve life's puzzle for us. It's up to us, It's up to you and me to figure these things out and discover for ourselves. And that's why we need to give so much thanks to Dominique for dropping this bomb on not only you, but myself as well. So Dominique, thank you so much. This episode was killer, and it has me thinking a lot about how I'm going to finish up my year and going into the next year, and it's going to play a big role into next week's episode of recapping 2017 and takeaways that I've learned that can hopefully benefit my listeners. So thank you, Dominique. And switching things up to continue this new tradition of your weekly dose of inspiration, this week's spotlight is on the aforementioned Matt Vergotes, who Dominique was talking about earlier, who was a speaker at her conference and she's doing Typism Summit workshops with. Matt not only is an incredible human, but he is a wickedly talented calligrapher, letterer, and a brand identity guru. Tie along to that, he also has a super entertaining personality. He's a must follow on Instagram over at Matt Vergotes. That's MattVergotis, Vergotes. And if you ever hear me or anybody else shout, "You," that's YEWWWW, it's related to him, as that's his just little quirky little phrase that he likes to say when he's signing off on his goofy Snapchat or Instagram stories. And if you're enjoying what you hear, or you want to support the show, I have not only one, but 2 ways you can make that happen. And first off, the supporters over at patreon.com/perspectivepodcast. You guys are making a massive difference, and big thank you to the new the new pledgers over the last week. Seriously, thank you so much. You're allowing me to elevate this show to where I envision it being, And with as little as $1, $3, or $5 per episode, you can help me keep up with audio hosting, web hosting, recording software, and equipment. And not only you helping the show, but I'm always trying to give some type of rewards back, so it's a mutual benefit. And you can get access to like mini episodes, discounts on my shop, critiques on your work, and I'm always open to new ideas that you think, could benefit you as a reward. So please shoot it my way. Again, you can invest in the growth of this show by visiting patreon.com/perspectivepodcast. And the second way that you can support the show is by leaving a quick ratings and review over on iTunes. It not only helps the show get discovered, but it gives me an opportunity to give you a nice little thank you plug, like this week's rating and review by my new friend Patrick Simmons, aka Patrick Iceberg, on Instagram. And Patrick states, Scotty does an amazing job of motivating through his podcast. It's personally inspired me to commit to that daily grind that builds slowly over time. This podcast is truly an inspiration and motivation booster. Scotty's interviews are thoughtful and well prepared. He deliberately asks sharp questions and really tries to dig in with successful creatives on what they did to get to where they are so he can pass on to his audience. Scotty's work, portfolio, and the podcast show his commitment and expertise while still maintaining humility and down-to-earthness. Thank you so much, Patrick, for such a thoughtful review like that, man. Like that takes time out of your existence to do that, and I'm so appreciative of you and those little micro interactions we've had recently on Instagram. For real, thank you so much, man. And finally, I need to give one big thank you shout out to Nick Jenkins, the homie who does all the dope theme music you hear on this show. Check him out on SoundCloud or on Instagram at Blookah. That's BLOOKAH. And as you finish off your week strong and you finish off your year strong, I want to encourage you to keep showing up, keep putting in the work, and keep taking all those threads and weaving them together and keep creating. You got this.